You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.
And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market. From unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the option block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts Uncle Mike Tussaw from RCM Asset Management, Andrew the Rock Lobster Joe Vanazzi from OptionPit.com, and Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian from OptionPit.com. And now, get ready to hit the option block.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to the option block. If it sounds a little bit different, it's because we're coming to you live to tape from the Option Pit, what do you call it? Professional Traders Summit here.
Option Pit and Westmark.
Okay, Option Pit and Westmark Professional Traders Summit here at the lovely and scenic Chicago Board Options Exchange. My name is Mark Longo from the OptionsInsider.com, as well as, of course, from the ever-expanding Options Insider Radio Network. 15 programs for you guys to choose from, including, if you like a little bit of nonsense, you got a taste of that yesterday with the business show. That is up there for a little bit of your listening diversion. Of course, there's 14 other programs on the network as well, including 5+ years worth of archive episodes of the Option Block. You can get all of that, of course. The mothership, the flagship, theoptionsinsider.com, as well as, of course, iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, pretty much wherever you find your favorite podcast programs, including, of course, a couple of you guys here have asked about the mobile app and the iOS version. Yes, you can download. I've said it before. You can download on all the various ones. Someone told me here that they switched to the podcast version, the podcast app in iTunes, because they can't download through the app. But you can download through the app. Just check in the episode link, click the download button. Because that wouldn't be much fun of an app if you couldn't download the shows. It was just streaming. That wouldn't be fun at all. All right, and joining me on the old Option Block panel today, Uncle Mike Tussaw. On assignment today, where we got an able stand-in. So we'll start that end, on the end of the old table, because he hasn't been on the Option Block in a while. But you may know him. You may love him as my former co-host there on Trading Tech Talk. He's been on the network a million times on Volatility Views. He's been on Option Block a few times as well. Mr. Henry Schwartz, the founder and CEO of Trade Alert. Henry, welcome back to the Option Block program, sir. It has been too long.
Thank you, Mark. I love this show. This is the one I listen to every single time. I try to catch all the other ones too. There are not enough hours in the week.
There are not. 15 programs is a lot. Henry is one of our biggest consumers as well, so it's nice to know.
That's right.
All of our hours go straight to Henry. And next to him, the man whose event this is, Mr. Greasy Meatball himself, Mr. Mark Sebastian from OptionPit.com. Welcome back to the show, sir.
Good to be here. This is the first time I think Mike Tussaw has ever passed up a free steak.
That's true.
I'm shocked he's not here.
Mark Sebastian's steak is a tasty thing indeed, but unfortunately, maybe we'll have to send his to him, or maybe we'll all share. We'll all share it ourselves, just for fun.
We're eating his steak.
We're eating his steak. And last but not least, all the way in from Maine, the Rock Lobster himself, Mr. Andrew Giovinazzi, also from a little thing called Option Pit. Welcome back to the show, Mr. Rock Lobster.
It is a pleasure to be here in front of, my students. Hopefully there'll be students after the show as well.
We'll see. We win friends and influence people here on the show. All right, without all the people introduced, let's get right into the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the trading block.
All right, listeners, if you're not here in the room with us, it is pretty silly the way we're doing it here today. But you guys listening after the fact, it'll sound as usual to you guys. Of course, another interesting day here. We are streaming it, well, actually not streaming it live, not today, but we are recording this live to tape here on Thursday, the 21st. So a lot of earnings kicking off. It's been an interesting day. We had a decent range. I think it was about 15 handles towards the end of the day out there in the S&P, with most of the major markets closing a little bit off on the day. We saw flirting with a high above 2172 out there in the S&P before trending south, shall we say, throughout the rest of the day. VIX cash kind of vacillating back and forth around that ever popular 13 handle yet again. I know you guys have been busy. Actually, maybe we'll start there, what you guys have been busy doing. Mark, since this is your event, for the people out there who couldn't make it here to Chicago, maybe you're going to do this event sometime soon in the future. Give them a little bit of an overview of what the heck you guys are doing here.
I mean, it's been kind of a fun couple of days. We've had basically a bunch of traders come in and meet other traders, and really just an astoundingly sophisticated audience. Normally when I start presenting, I expect a lot, at least some of the audience to be like, what do you mean? And none of that here, just a great smart crowd. And then we've had presenters. I have, obviously myself and Andrew presented. Mike Lamar from Wall Street I.O. came and gave a great speech and a great discussion on technical analysis. Kathy Clay came in and basically
burned the house down.
Yeah, basically proved why she's the best option trader in the building. She's the CEO of LiveVol. We also had, who else am I thinking of missing from? We had Henry came and talked, showed off some of TraderWord stuff. That was impressive.
I heard you talk grain futures the whole time. Very surprising.
Yeah, no.
And I think I want Scott Shelley for president.
And yes,
presentation he did.
Yeah, the guy that everyone's going to be talking about is Scott Shelley from TGM Investments that basically enthralled this group for an hour, and he's going to be the topic du jour of every single plane ride that these guys have back to wherever they're from, all the way from Germany to, well, not really New Zealand, but when he flies home to his parents, he's going to be talking about Scott Shelley's presentation to Michigan to wherever these guys are from. It's going to be, it was just a fascinating keynote address by Scott. So it's really just been great. I've learned a ton, and I'm supposed to be one of the pros.
Andrew, your thoughts? This is your event as well.
I enjoyed it. I think our clients enjoyed it. There's nothing. My favorite thing always though is mock trading. I mean, as an old floor trader, we went down to floor trade yesterday, and
I asked Mark, you didn't do a full opening rotation and give him the full flavor of all that fun stuff.
If opening rotation had happened in the last 10 years,
we'd still be there.
Maybe we would have done it.
But the deer in the headlights, it never gets old. Everybody's looking at the screen. What do I do? They're trying to identify brokers and put all the pieces together. And even, when I was on the CBOE and even on the PSE doing mock trading and stuff, everybody's reaction has always been the same. Nobody's ever come in there and just burned it down. They've always just stared at the screen and go, am I supposed to say anything? Am I supposed to? But they're trying. You guys, I have to say, our group is trying pretty good. They kind of carded some trades. They did put some positions on, although the hedging might have been a little slow a couple of times.
A little Texas hedging
and the market was kind of fast. We had like a $6 swing in the underlying in 15 minutes. So options that were trading 30 cents went to $1.60. And I personally have I have scars of that exact thing happening to me as a market maker, where you just sell 500 or something for 30 cents, and you look at them, they're $1.60, and this is not going to be a very good day.
Yeah.
So it brought back fond memories. I do miss the CBOE. We had a lot of fun here. But I think, as far as clients,
I have to say, I did enjoy blowing out that one client. That was awesome. One of our clients got a tap from his risk manager and pulled off the floor.
Mark cheated. He knew the program ahead of time. He knew where we were going.
Yeah.
So he was picking off his clients left and right.
Yeah, I was just pretending to be Citadel.
This episode is brought to you by Citadel. But yeah, interesting stuff. I'm sure I missed the mock trading. It would have been fun to see. But you're right. It is always.
Your voice would have done well there. It would carry through.
How do you think I developed this? It took a lot to be heard. Even when the SPX bit was about a third the size that it is now. Looking forward to what we're seeing today. I know you guys have been kind of stuck in classrooms all day, but it has been an interesting day from an earnings perspective, certainly. It is kind of nice to say that too, isn't it? I know we have a lot of other macro stuff floating around, but being able to look at earnings every now and then, a nice, concise, fundamental type event, micro event, is nice. You forget about forget the Sturm and Drang of Yellen and everyone else. Just nice to talk about some numbers and some expectations. And we had a few of those coming out after the bell. We are kind of in the height of earnings season this morning. Before the bell, of course, we had Dunkin Brands, your favorite, Mr. Greasy Meatball, as well as General Motors, Marriott. And and then Southwest. And today after the bell, we have, of course, a bunch actually. AT&T, the former stealth Apple, now I guess you can call them, stealth Salmonella, Chipotle Mexican Grill. We have E-Trade, Pandora. Let's just run through a few of those. Good old-fashioned AT&T used to be one of the big pits here. Back in the day, telephone. You know you're old school. Andrew, you probably call it telephone, don't you?
Phone.
Yeah, phone. Oh, you phone. Wow, you cut off all the syllables. You're super old school then. Yeah, you call it phone back in the day. They were pricing in about an 80-cent straddle. It was trading right around the time we were pricing up, right about 42 3/4. So pricing at about 2%. And as of our last check, it was only off about 50 cents in the after hours.
Yeah, I've got it down to 40.
Yeah, as you might expect, AT&T not exactly a big barnstormer in the earnings, but turning over to Chipotle, their frequent accusations of food poisoning, surprise, surprise, haven't been that good for them. They were trading right around 4.16 when we priced this up. They're straddled about 31.5, so right about 7.5%. It's funny, as I was walking here, I walked by another exchange and they were showing a few financial media channels and they were really going on and on about Chipotle just being terrible and just getting crushed. And so I came racing in here to see how it was, and it was only off a whopping 6 handles.
Yeah, it's off $5.
So it wasn't perhaps the barnstormer everyone was expecting out there in Chipotle land. And of course, E-Trade about 25 1/4 when we priced it up. They're pricing it about $1, right about $1 or so for their straddle, about 4%. Again, this one also only up about 50 cents or about 2%. So kind of a lot of a resounding mezz so far here. On the earnings, I think you guys hit on any of these in your intraday. I know you guys don't do your pitch chat here.
No, not really.
We did look at PayPal a little bit toward the end of the day. That's something that we've been watching, but
That was
just as
nice,
a possible takeout. But so far the earnings were decent, so it rallied a little bit, and it wasn't. So that one's been a good one just for us. But other than that, mostly talking really highbrow in here, really highbrow.
High-end stuff. Speaking of high-end, if you're doing high-end, you have to get your high-end fuel, right? High-end coffee. Starbucks, S-Bucks used to be out here as well, right next to the IBM pit. They were in the same pit actually. They were pricing they closed about 57.5 or so, about a 2.15 for their straddle, about 4%. And so far in the after hours, they're probably one of the bigger movers, and it isn't that much. They're off about nearly $2, nearly about 3.25% in the after hours. So people, I guess, not buying a lot of super overpriced lattes over there. I know, Henry, you are the flow master over there at the Schwartzotron, aka Trade Alert.
Schwartzotron.
I love it. That is an old school one. Any stuff lighting up? I know you've been busy over here today too. Any flow catching your eye across the myriad databases of Trade Alert today?
We did see, overall the volume actually it's been a pretty quiet week. I think Tuesday was only 13 million contracts, one of the slowest days of the year. So it kind of feels like a lot of people are maybe on summer vacation. It's interesting, as VIX has gotten annihilated, and we in hyperspeed went from this global crisis macro focus back to okay, now it's earnings again. It feels to me, based on volume and what we're seeing, that a lot of traders are kind of sitting it out this cycle. That maybe they weren't able to kind of quickly flip from macro focus back to earnings. That said, though, Harley-Davidson, Starbucks, Intel, GM and Ford, we saw some heavy call buying earlier this week, which paid off. So there's things going on, but overall, that volume just seems a little bit light.
Yeah, a little anemic. All the French are already heading off to the Riviera, taking their SPX and other volume with them. Like I said, Uncle Mike couldn't be here today, so I thought I'd throw in an Apple story in his favor. That is still one of his favorite holdings. The latest data.
We got like half of Silicon Valley in the room,
Yes, exactly.
So they're Apple people.
Yeah, don't you have an Apple guy in here? Don't you have an Apple trader? The data coming out of IDC today. Surprise, surprise, Mark, your favorite product, the Apple Watch, is a resounding flop. The sales are off about 55% from this time last year. They're about 3.6 million a year ago to 1.6 million so far this time here today. They're saying it's kind of an unprecedented sales decline for Apple. Obviously, they compare it to the best thing they have, which is the iPhone. That thing had pretty much gains every quarter from 2007 until recently. The first time it fell was about 16% the first quarter of this year. So a long run for that. They're also saying Apple Watch losing market share is down from about 72% when it came out, only about just under half of the market share now. Samsung, Motorola, and others kind of closing in on this. I know this comes as a deep surprise and shock to you, Mark, because you were one of the biggest devotees of the Apple Watch and you were its biggest supporter at launch. But
it's ugly.
Video jokes do not work on a radio program.
You know, so for those who don't know, I used to have this picture of me with my iPhone 4 strapped to my wrist with rubber bands. And I was like, look, I've got an iWatch prototype. And here's where I think Apple swung and missed. People that wear watches wear them because they're jewelry, not for the technology. We have, I'm not going to point them out, but we have two very, very deep Apple investors here, all right, that love the stock. They're all Apple, all the time, all products, and both of them are wearing expensive watches that are not produced by Apple. I'll let you all look around and try to decide who they are. They know who they are. And so the problem with the Apple Watch was that it's not, people don't want technology on their wrist. Why do I want to carry my phone and my watch? You wear jewelry as a status symbol. You wear a watch as a status symbol. Rich people wear a Rolex, not because it's a great watch, but because it's a Rolex. All right? Rich people don't wear iPhones on their wrist. All right? And truthfully, at least when I put my watch in my phone, I've got some sort of a valid excuse on why I ignored my wife's texts. Kind of hard to do when it's on your wrist.
I'll have to agree to disagree as a lone, I think, smartwatch wearer. But I don't wear an Apple Watch, so I'm not.
The only thing smart about watches.
All right, so unless you guys have anything else that caught your eye today, we'll roll on into the odd block.
Just a little pop-up in the VIX, that's all. Market actually moved a little bit.
Are we going to...
On very little volume, so.
Yeah, well, you know, one thing we did discuss, because Henry came in and did something on the trade alert, somebody asked about Joy Global.
Okay.
Joy Global got bought out. And
they got halted intraday, I know.
I think they're bought out, and I'd asked Henry if there was any action in there, and I don't think that's on our odd block.
There wasn't, and as of intraday, there wasn't. We had people actually asking us that as soon as they got halted today, and at the time, they were averaging about, 1,400 contracts a day, and they had done about 1,400 total. So a day's worth of volume by midday, but I mean, maybe it's changed by after hours. Maybe you saw some later stuff, but as of midday, there wasn't anything really there of any of size that I saw.
Yeah, I didn't actually look at today's volume, but I did when I saw it was up 18% or whatever. I went back and dug up. The most recent heavy day was July 1st, and there was, I think, about 4,000 contracts traded on that day against 1,400-ish average, and I think it was 24 strike call buying, like in the $1.50 range. But what's kind of interesting on this one, because during my presentation we were talking a little bit about cheaters and some of the inside information that basically does get expressed in options. And when it's a cash takeout, volatility goes to zero, right? So buying a longer dated call into a cash deal is a disaster. It instantly goes to parity. And in this case, they paid $1.50 for these calls. Stock goes up 17%. The calls are $2.50 today because they paid 60 vol 2 weeks ago, and I think they're still putting about 12 points of vol in it. So it's kind of interesting because there is a case we looked at a long time ago where it was a cash takeout and the insider trading that really happened was put sellers ahead. And that is the home run if it's a cash deal. If it's a stock for stock deal and there's still going to be volatility, then you can buy all the upside calls you want. But so I didn't look if there was anything immediately in front of the deal. Like lately, we see these news bot algos that do sweep up a few thousand calls into a halt, and they're very consistent. I mean, you can buy these news machine readable news services now from a couple of the big news providers. And when tweets go out, the very first inkling of something going on, which often is before the exchanges halt the underlying, they use the smart routers, they sweep up a few thousand calls, and they hit a home run. Granted, they're putting a decent amount of money into building the system to do that, but that's a little business.
So you're saying 2 year out leaps 30% out of the money, not the sharp takeover play that it used to be.
The guy if that July 1st flow was somebody that actually knew what was going to happen, they weren't smart in the option side.
And may I comment? I just love the way that everybody in the industry calls these people cheaters. Like if you go on news, you'll never hear somebody on CBC be like, And in Heinz Corporation, there was a cheater.
Informed speculator.
Yeah, they'll be like, oh, well-timed paper.
Smart.
Now, we just, I mean, literally, some guy would beat you on the floor, and you'd be like, you would go to the broker, and you'd tell him, be like, your guy's a cheater. It was literally like 4th grade ballpark.
Yes, it'd be a little more vocal probably even than that, but yes, I remember a few of those conversations. Since we're talking unusual activity, anyway, let's get into the odd block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, welcome to the Odd Block, the portion of the show where we bravely venture into the dark alleys and the shady quarters of the world of options. I'm just going to kick things off looking back a little bit. If you guys remember what we were talking about on the last show, there was, shall we say, some size in good old Nobel Corp.
Oh, yeah.
Ticker symbol NE. Don't confuse it with Noble Energy. Nobel Corp.
Noble Corp.
Very, very similar. There was size upside. They were July 22, so expiring tomorrow. At the time, they were weeklies. Now they're effectively dailies. We saw, I think, about 26,000 of those total going up. Paper gobbling those up for about prices around 55 or so cents. We said we keep an eye on those for you because they are near-term paper. And as of today, not looking that great. Those calls that last we checked, they're going out about 8 cents.
They're 8 cents.
And there's still about 20,000 open. So there is, but it's kind of interesting. We watched some of the paper the following day. I know maybe Henry, you saw some of this on the old Schwartzotron as well. But that's an old school joke. You guys don't laugh at it. Don't worry about it.
Let me tell my Schwartzotron story.
Okay, go ahead.
So when I started down here in the 80s, like late 80s, there was Quotrons and Schwartzotron. Quotron didn't do anything option modeling at all. Schwartzotron was this PC the subscription that they sold that actually had the first inklings of Black-Scholes built into it. And I don't remember the guy's first name, but
I believe his last name was Schwartz.
There was a guy, an old dude with white hair, whose last name was Schwartz, and he had built this thing, and I was working for Blair Hull, and we had a Christmas party at the Woolworths building, and Schwartz was there, okay, and I was 22 years old maybe, and so my last name's Schwartz. And I'm hammered because it's a Christmas party. And I go up to this guy, Schwartz. I'm like, Schwartzotron! Schwartz! We must be related! The biggest fool myself. And he just looked at me. I mean, this was like, he was a quant. I mean, he was like an academic quant. And I was a hammered 22-year-old kid. And he even pointed out we didn't spell our name the same way either.
He probably backed away across the other side of the room.
But maybe I could get rights to the Schwartzotron name.
You should look into that.
You should.
I'm pretty sure it's.
Surprised I haven't branded you with that nickname all these years. I think it might stick now, though. I don't know. Maybe replacing the Flowmaster.
There's not too many people that remember it, though.
Yeah, it's an old school joke. That's what makes it funny. It's arcane. All right, yeah. They saw after there'd been about 26,000 of those Nobel calls on, I believe that was Monday. Yeah, about Tuesday, it looks like they dumped about 14,000 of them. So they took off some of them. I think they scratched a lot of them. Prices around 50. So they got in, saw it wasn't going their way, got out. But there's still size. There was still size printing today. Actually, a lot of back and forth paper today. Some traded as high. Let's see, about 3,500 printed as of the end of the day today. Some going up as high as 28 cents. So there's a lot of cruft on that strike, which is kind of interesting, considering these are effectively dailies at this point. So yeah, there's still about, as of the end of the day, there's still about 20,000 open here on this strike. So interesting stuff.
Let me tell you, this cheater better be right, or I'm really pissed I bought those August calls.
Yeah, too bad you piggybacked on this guy and you said he was the most informed paper you've ever seen. That one may be leaving a mark. It might be taking some of the Hershey gains with it on this one. Moving on, another one you guys I know you're looking at earlier today. This is everyone's favorite. You guys are talking, I think, a little bit of commodities earlier today. Teucrium Corn Fund, ticker symbol surprise. Corn. This one was trading right around $19 as of the end of the day, hovering right around a 52-week low. So not exactly boom times for corn. We saw an interesting vertical going up, the odd 1920 going up. Looks like perhaps someone thinking the better of their 20 strike and deciding to roll down, but not going too far.
Yeah.
Selling out the 20s, buying up the 19s, doing it for about 41 cents here And again, doing it for about, on a bit of a ratio, 4,500 by 2,700. So clearly he's feeling some pain because he's not reopening at the same level. He's not doing 4,500, he's doing a lot fewer. This one up 2 blocks right over here on the SIBO. Some other size went up later on the day, but it does look like they're closing. So Mr. Rocklops, I know this one kind of came up on your radar this morning. What are your thoughts here? Usually when they're rolling down and it's not the same size, chances are things didn't exactly go their way.
This is one of my favorite trades where the first one works so good, so well, you're going to spend twice as much money to do it again.
Yes, exactly.
I don't think that's really the way, unless you know.
So you guys
something.
teach here, right? At Option, isn't that the first introduction
Yeah,
course?
well, if you liked it at 20, you're gonna love it at 19. You can't lose.
The roll down for more size. That's
Yeah.
the first.
I think that was the August, right? So they have some time, granted, and there's the summer season, and maybe corn bounces and blah 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 blah.
Maybe he's running some algo, and this is against some other trade that he's got on the futures. I mean, there probably is another side of the futures options. And maybe he's just reallocating his delta to try and get a constant exposure to Teucrium corn.
Who doesn't want constant exposure to?
All of those things are possible.
It's entirely possible.
However,
I mean,
you spend a lot more money on a position that's not making money.
What kind of guy is like, well, I know that I could trade options on futures, trade like 1/10 of the number here, get direct exposure, not pay a management fee, and, among other things. But screw that, I'm going to buy, bless you, screw that, I'm going to buy I'm going to buy Teucrium Corn Fund.
Yeah, it's kind of hard. Outside of GLD, it's kind of hard to really to make that recommendation. And even GLD, right, has some issues, but certainly perhaps better than our friend Teucrium Corn. All right, this is actually an interesting one. It is a good name. It is a good name. None of it goes. It sounds like a sci-fi corn fund, which is always an interesting mix. This is an interesting one as well. eBay, not a name we talk about a lot here on the Odd Block. Saw someone expressing some long-term movement. I wouldn't say bullish on vol. Long-term bullish on movement in eBay. In particular, was the Jan 2017 31.29 strangle, doing it for looks like about 310, 315, something along those levels. eBay, if you're not familiar, closed right around $30. So they need about a 10% move for this thing to even start making any sense for them. Went up over there on the ISE. This one, if you followed eBay at all over the past year, it's a bit of a funky one because this thing has been effectively unched over the past 6 months. In fact, I looked it up. On Jan earnings, it opened at 26.71, and yesterday, I'd gone into the earnings, it opened at 26.61. So it was literally unched by a dime the entire 6 months. So someone's coming in and thinking that
up 3 handles today.
Yeah. Post obviously, and then that's another thing. He comes in and buys this thing after the giant move, which you may think maybe
he's looking for he's looking
a momentum
for
trader. I know you had some technical guys in here. Maybe he's a momentum guy, but I don't know, Mr. Rockhouse, what are your thoughts on gobbling up something that needs to move 10%? Vol is relatively cheap out there because the thing hasn't moved in the last 6 months, and now all of a sudden it moves, and then you dive in after the fact for additional momentum.
Yeah, I think this is going to be the trade type of the next 6 months because vol's getting very low. You're going to see more people buying strangles, I think me included. Just vol's super cheap. There's still a lot
Full
of
disclosure, this is your trade, right?
Yeah, this is not my trade. Although I don't think it's terrible, mostly because you just saw a $3 move and you're buying $3 worth of movement for 6 months. Now, if I would have said the same thing probably in January, but all of a sudden, the best indicator of a stock moving is a stock moving, and maybe something's a little different there right now. Apparently, somebody bought 2,000 contracts thinking so, but I think as long-term vol gets cheaper, I think the gamma is going to become much more affordable. You don't have the same decay rate, and it's just going to be a much better trade. Obviously it's the stuff you couldn't do in January or February when prices were probably 2 or 3 times higher for the same option.
And as interest rates fall and fall and fall, long-term calls are going to seem cheaper and cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. This is a little off topic, but I want to actually I'm going to give a little shout out to one of our students that was here last year, because we were having a conversation about eBay and Twitter at the time. And a year ago, Twitter was about $40 and had been kind of slammed. And they were in the middle of Jack Dorsey had just been made the CEO. And what this client told me was, the reason why Jack Dorsey coming out as CEO tells me that they can't get a CEO because they can't promise they won't sell themselves, and they can't promise they'll give them the time to turn around. And so if they don't sell themselves, Twitter's going down a lot. And if they do get sold, they're not going to be able to sell themselves to Google because it'll be antitrust. So it'd have to be a name like eBay. And well, eBay didn't buy him, but he was dead on his Twitter call. So that was the big long-term macro trade that we had at Poke Mahomes over a burger with 10 of us, and he was dead on. So good props to Tim there.
The old eBay Twitter are hot trade on the street these days. We're going to wrap it up. Since we're talking eBay, people sell toys on eBay. Let's go to Mattel. This is ticker symbol MAT, Matt, over here, closing about 33.5 or so today. Looks like we got more tied. I think you're kind of right. This might be, given where we are from a vol perspective, this is certainly maybe not going to see a lot of people, not as many overwrites maybe going up in the odd block for the foreseeable future. And if they're doing it, they're going to be going crazy far out looking for crazy, weird yield hunts, and we'll make fun of them appropriately here on the show. But yeah, a lot of ended up with more premium buying. In particular, it was the Mattel Aug 33s that we saw going up today, going up for $1.25 on one block over there on the Amex, not on the SIBO. Total volume, total on the day, about over 9,000, nearly 10,000 contracts. Paper gobbling that up. Also saw about 50,000 shares going up. So yeah, that's not delta neutral, not by a long shot. So this guy is just putting up the stock more as ornamentation than anything else at this point. Mr. Rock Lobster, take us home here on these AUG calls with just a dash of stock for seasoning.
Yeah, you buy 6,000 calls and then you sell 50,000 shares of stock. So
maybe he needs to take your intro course to learn what delta is.
Maybe he thinks it's one. I don't know what he thinks, but clear. You know what's funny is in Mattel, I think is close to all-time high or a one-year high.
Yes.
They don't have any Pokemon toys.
Yeah, you're right.
They don't have any Disney toys, and it's still at a one-year high. And again, just going with the rest of the market, they suspend belief on any.
It's going to be Barbie Go coming soon. You get to find Barbie all over the.
So maybe they want. I don't know. I think there is some kind of yield in Mattel. So. Anyway, it's just very long with some short stock, and maybe they're right. Again, I think Mattel, they're just, I think now looking for momentum or something. That's what they were doing, but it's just a little tiny bit of stock and an awful lot of calls.
A lot of calls.
Well, here's what I will say is that for those of you that thought Barbie was dead and DOA, I spent a week with my family, and I have a niece that's 5 and another niece that's 6. And they both were on their iPads, and every single day for a good hour, she'd play this game, and all I heard was, "I can do anything, I'm a Barbie girl," and over and over and over again. And all she wants is Barbies. And so the young lady with unrealistic body dimensions may be making a comeback.
The Barbie's a doctor now, and a scientist, and everything else.
And the president.
Yes.
I saw the presidential Barbie. I actually saw it.
Really? Oh, so there you go. That's very timely. So you're saying Frozen wasn't the kiss of death for Barbie after all?
No. But Frozen 2 is coming out next year. Just a heads up, folks.
I was on a Disney. I saw little girls waiting 5 hours to go on the Frozen ride. So there's still some love for that brand as well. Speaking of love, it's time for you guys. It's Thursday. It's time for you guys to get your questions and your love heard on the old program. It's time for the mail block.
It's time to take your seat on the All-Star panel as we read your emails, tweets, Facebook messages, website comments, and much more. It's time for the Mail Block.
All right,
and as you can see, folks, this is in fact a mail block right here.
Yes, all male.
All
Very
male.
diverse panel here. Andrew's from Maine, doesn't get more diverse than that. All right, this is where we usually answer a lot of people's questions. People chat in, people tweet in, people email in. But you guys are in the room, you're live, so we'll give you guys pride of place. We've got a bazillion questions we can get to here, but if you guys have anything percolating in your brains, and you're lucky, if you are an L or an XL, you can win a fabulous Options Insider prize. If you do indeed ask a good question. We do actually come with good stuff. Only lands in, only the best. All right, we'll start right. We got a brave soul right here. You can ask her, we can just repeat it here too, whatever. Give him the mic, guys. It'll be official.
So since you brought up Barbie, is there any truth to the rumor that she's waiting for a transgender operation or something?
Wow, I'm already regretting asking the crowd.
For those of
I get an
you,
explicit tag now on iTunes.
for those of you who were ever a 6-year-old boy that wanted to know what was under the dress, we all know that Barbie actually doesn't have anything under there. So she's a genderless lump.
All right, we'll move on to a prepared question. From
Do we have
listeners.
do we have any other questions from the audience regarding trading or anything like that from our experts here? Any interest in the Schwartzotron?
We'll let them percolate for a little bit. We'll throw a few out there to seed them, and they come in. And let's see how many we can get their bunch here. Here's a nice fun. This is actually good, given where we are here at the CBOs. Comes from the creatively named Tim. No handle, no nothing else, just Tim. He asks, size aside, what are the other primary benefits of using SPX instead of SPY? Well, I know if Tusaw were here, he'd be screaming 60-40 pretty much all day long.
Yeah,
it's
tax,
kind of like his favorite thing.
Liquidity.
SPY's pretty liquid. I mean, SPX obviously does a lot of size.
All right.
I never jumped into SPY and been like, oh.
SPY is 2 cents wide. SPY is 2 cents wide, 10,000 up. SPX is 20 cents wide, 10,000 up. You can do 10x the size from the crowd. All right. SPX has a lot more unique, different expirations. They've got Wednesday settle. They also go out all sorts of contract months that SPY doesn't have. Don't have to deal with the dividend. Most of the options are now PM settles. You don't have to deal with that PETA.
European.
European exercise, no early exercise, so you don't have to worry about dividends. What else you got? Anything?
The cash settlement.
And of course the Rule 1256 cash settlement may potentially be tax advantage. Consult your accountant or a tax professional.
European may or may not be, independent of what you're looking at, may or may not be of interest to you. But yeah, the cash settled, the tax treatment certainly. And yes, if you're a size French SPX trader, for whatever reason, most of them seem to be
There
French.
are a lot of people that are size traders.
Then the size of SPX. I was getting his question. He says size of size. I was trying to give him exactly what he asked for here. The creatively.
There you go.
Tim, you guys, any other questions percolating here before I keep going down our crazy
I got one.
in-depth list? Oh, there you go. Another brave soul.
All right.
Would you also want to know about the gender of Barbie or perhaps Anna and Elsa?
The gender Barbie question
The
is not
Pokemon of your
sure.
choosing?
I'm worried about Ken.
Maybe Charizard?
So the VIX was down yesterday below 12, and today it popped back up to 13. We saw huge volume on the VIX puts. Do you have any idea what may be going on for that?
Let's go to
The
the
13 August puts are actually pretty big today.
Let's go to the Schwartzotron, the man who has all the flow at his fingertips, sir. What say you about the AUG 13 puts? I think in general, the point about VIX puts has something interesting. If you listen to one of our other programs here, while the Schwartzotron gets his data ready, if you listen to our other programs like the volatility views program that we do with our friends here at the CBO, and it's been interesting to watch. VIX is such a call-heavy product. 9 times out of 10, it's always calls all the time. And over the last, few weeks, we've seen this
Put volume is exploding.
incredible implosion. We do a kind of top 10 of the hot strikes out there, what's been lighting it up. And I can't recall the last time, it's been probably a couple of years that we've seen this many put strikes lighting it up. In particular, it was July, now AUG 15 and 16 kind of handles were kind of where all the action was. I believe July 15 and 16s were kind of lighting it up. They were probably 3 of the top 5 of the hot strikes and like 4 or 5 of the top 10. So it's been a while since we've seen that much put volume. All that, sir, as a bit of a way to give you some time to check your Schwartzotron. What do you have for us, sir?
Thank you. I did. I checked my pocket Schwartzotron, which is really called solar on my phone. I'm looking at the put call in VIX, which averages around 0.6. It was lower, under a half today, and they have an interest put call too. So, what I've noticed is VIX is just as it gets more popular, you're pulling in new players who are playing in different ways. I don't know the 13 strikes specifically. It's funny when you do flow analytics the way we do, which is model based. VIX and SPX actually are trickier because you don't have the fragmentation, so you can't do as many tricks to really get a picture of the flow in there. I would just say that in general, those 2 heavy institutional products oftentimes are part of a more complex. There's other legs.
Yeah,
So it's not nearly as what you see is what's going on. It takes much more interpretation and kind of nuance.
And I think a big thing to understand and why you see this put volume has to do with the spread between the cash index and the future. So yesterday the future settled about 1540. Today it settled about 1580. All right. So we had the VIX up huge all the way to 13. So if VIX stays around where it is, that future in 26 days needs to be at 13. So what you're seeing is with VIX this low, when VIX is higher, the trade to take advantage of roll yield and things of the convergence of mean normalization is to sell calls or call spreads or to dump things like that. When you get the VIX this low with VVIX, which is the VIX of VIX this low, the safer and smarter way to play VIX convergence, the convergence of the future to the cash index, is through puts. And if you look at the way the flow was moving today, a lot of the really big paper, I mean, I was shocked. Guy comes in, VIX is around 1250. The guy's buying 20,000 of the 13 puts for a quarter. And so you do get a lot of this flow coming in, betting on convergence. So VIX is up 60 cents from yesterday. Instead of 90 cents today, it's back to 12.5. In 26 days, those puts that he bought for 25 cents are worth double. Yep. All right? And all that had to happen was VIX going up.
I know I have a bit of a skewed sample here, but I'm curious, how many of you guys actually trade VIX, futures, options, what have you? All right, so a pretty decent amount. Yeah, that to me, I think we were talking about this on a recent show, that to me, since we're in the house of VIX, it makes sense to talk about it a little bit, but that to me is definitely one of the biggest surprises. I remember being here, what is it, 10 plus years ago now, and hearing them talk about how they're going to launch VIX futures and options, kind of just laughing and thinking, who's going to touch this outside of the most size SPX group, who wants to lay off all their SPX vol risk, let alone your proverbial grandmother in Iowa. They're never going to touch this with a 10-foot pole. It's the most institutional of institutional products, and here we are a decade or so later, and the retail volume in VIX is just enormous.
It is, and the institutional volume is big too.
Yes, I would
so.
say so.
Any other questions from the audience? I got an XL T-shirt here for somebody.
It's big for you. You can just throw it on. We'll seed him with another one here unless you got someone who's brave enough to leap into the fray. Here's one. There's a timely one from listener goes by the handle JVig. They write
JVig.
Which names? This is timely. Which names are the most reliable premium rights every quarter? One show. So he wants the secret sauce.
Oh yeah.
All in 30 seconds. But this kind of goes back to a conversation you and I have a lot on the show. Andrew, how many times have we joked about go to Microsoft? Used to be the best game in town for that. It wasn't a ton of juice, but it was reliable. You could carve it and harvest 80 to 90% of it every quarter. Activision used to be in that kind of conversation as well. And those days I think are well behind us at this point. Unless you're still out there blasting away a lot in good old softy these days.
Not in softy anymore. Actually, what's funny is we actually saw a presentation yesterday. Selling premium in Microsoft right now is actually probably the most underpriced relative premium there is. I'm actually looking, the new cash writer for me might be Intel puts, just because it's not really going anywhere, it doesn't do anything, and it's not going away. So I would say something along those lines. But actually the live vol product was pretty nifty for that. I know they sponsored the next show, the Volview show on the
yeah.
Give them a plug, it's all right.
Yeah,
we'll allow it.
They do have kind of a nifty little put writing scanner, which kind of gives you a good idea about what put writing is going to generate. So I would say Microsoft, and not so much anymore. It's actually become almost a growth stock again, so there's upside, so you don't really want to sell stuff on that. Intel, though, is kind of sluggy now, and they just had earnings again, and they slugged it out, so that looks like your right candidate.
That's your new favorite, huh?
Well, Apple's not going away for a while, so sell there.
Sell the cash value puts, right? And
yeah.
Go home.
If you look at things the way that they slam single name vol relative to the big index, you're way better off buying a basket of stocks that you think is better. We just listened to Scott Shelley talk about the fact that you want to be long stocks, or in his view, not you want to, but in his view, he thinks that long stocks with a leaning toward technology is going to outperform the general marketplace. I tend to agree with him. So a trade that's going to make sense would be to go long stocks with a leaning toward equities and then sell SPX over it, where we know that volatility is fundamentally forced too high by regulation. Another one of Scott's great things he brought up as needing to be fixed. So until we deregulate, SPX is going to be the product to sell.
Henry, I know you don't do the vol scanning. You do vol scanning, obviously, but any thoughts on some names you see that are pretty popular on your system out there with the premium harvesters quarter after quarter?
We don't back test on kind of consistency.
No. You can look at strike selection and kind of get an idea of kind of what they're up to.
Right. My only warning would be usually when the vol's ramped up, there's a reason for it. So,
Yes.
we do provide, like, here's the biggest vol jumps today. Here's the biggest vol versus historic. But I usually kind of slice off the top 10 there and go for like the next chunk to even consider a trade, because when the vol is jacked up, it's a pretty efficient world that we operate in. And I agree, SPX is kind of fundamentally has something in it in general.
What's wrong with selling calls and $3 biotechs? I mean, what could possibly go wrong there, sir? I don't know why you would turn your nose up at such free, reliable money quarter after quarter. All right, we got a few more questions, but I want to make sure you guys. Oh, here you go.
All right.
Another brace.
Also known as a fool, yeah.
Darker white.
I'll go white.
Land's End, Mark. Wow.
Look at that.
The only one in Manhattan.
This is a top-notch quality here, folks. Land's End Land's End. Unbelievable.
So my question relates to VIX and the VIX family of products. So with volatility, hitting the lows where it's been for the summer and sort of languishing the lows, what is your view on how you can trade, or whether there is a tradable pair between VIX and its family of products, or whether with volatility this low, the sort of VIX family are basically kind of out of it until VIX itself moves further?
VIX family of products. That's a very euphemistic way of putting it. I like that. There's VIX, and then there's kind of everything else. And it's been fun to watch. I mean, we watched that not to plug our other show too much, but we watched that a lot on that program of the myriad different ways they've tried to skin that cat, as going back to the success of VIX. The single name VIXs, which never really traded, the Apples, the other things like that. VXST, probably the most infamous among those. The short-term VIX, which was then supplanted by actually weekly VIX options. Go figure, people actually wanted it all the time. It still seems to come back to the fact that VIX trades, VIX prints, VIX options, VIX futures trade, all the myriad permutations therein, that come out otherwise, they've never really caught fire. And so I think when you dive into those, you're playing with fire because the spreads are wider, they're not as liquid, and all the other issues that are inherent to it. I mean, I'm trying to think of off the top of your head.
Double X and UVXY are the.
Yeah, but those are VIX ETFs. You're talking about actual VIX, like family products, right? Or are you talking about all ETFs and things like that too, like VXX?
Yeah, double X.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's a different story.
I mean,
okay. Yeah.
I continue to think that the most underutilized strategy in the VIX product right now is strategic selling of weekly puts. I mean, do I think VIX could have settlements in the tens or in the single digits in the next couple of months? Yeah, it could happen. Can I get a good look at that the week of? Yes. So a lot of the stuff that I really like is strategic selling of stuff expiring next Wednesday. Like the 13-12 half put 1x2. All right. If I can get that on for credit, or if I think that VIX is going to stay above 12.5, I can get paid to put on the 13.5, 13 put 1x2. Take that credit. I'll buy puts in VXX, UVXY, and kind of take advantage of the roll yield in the futures side of UVXY while pocketing the credit out of that 1x2 strategy. Something like that. I think there's a real opportunity to harvest yield. Andrew yesterday, just in UVXY itself, built some his favorite trade is long puts in UVXY, long butterfly in UVX, long bull
Your favorite trade is long VXX calls. You put them in your IRA. You said you'll forget it.
I put VXX.
You've been doing that for years. One day it's going to pay off.
VXX is what I always tell people. VXX is at a 52-week low. Maybe it's time to buy. For folks at home, that was a joke.
The biggest cheerleader of VXX I've ever seen. Mr. Rothhoff, anything to add to that? Or Henry Schwartzotron?
I like Mark's idea. That's something that we look at a lot. So also, I think the slightly in the money strangle with Volvo and VIX, with relatively short duration because there's so much contango. Those have been paying pretty well. It's just, the reality is you can't forget about the upside. That's all. You can't ignore the fact that the market can do something, and right now I still think it's trading on a hair trigger. So,
and that's why I think
and
that's why the put volume is moving the way it's moving. I mean, it's all that. All right, got a question from
another brave soul.
Another one.
Hopefully he's the next.
Unfortunately,
he
just
wants
the last T-shirt.
He does. He wants the last cool fashion. He's a man of
He just wanted
fashion.
his
sense.
son-in-law
has one.
He wants to be able to match his son-in-law who asked the last question.
Is it working?
It's on.
It's on?
Okay,
Yeah.
so you're good.
Okay, with the upcoming reverse split on the VIX products, what might be an opportunity trade to make?
Well, the best thing about the VIX, the best thing about the UVXY reverse splitting is you get to buy puts on a product that's going to be like $40 instead of a product that's
Just
$6.
recharges the whole trade.
Yeah, just recharges.
Yeah, it's
Everything
great.
you've been doing, everything that we know works when UVXY is being like UVXY works even better when it's an expensive stock. The amount of money made by the first guys to get short in that thing in the first 6 months, when that thing that tanked, is awesome. So I look forward to reverse splits.
I think the drug dealers call it re-up.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
That's exactly what it's
All
amazing.
right.
They just keep recharging that product for more Mark's call buys. You'll be very happy.
Oh.
All right, and with that, we're going to move on into our final segment. It's time for Around the Block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, everybody. Like the man said, this is the portion of the show. We break down what we're watching for the rest of this week into the old weekend. There are still some names coming out this week. We got American Airlines tomorrow. We've got good old GE. Mr. Rocklofter's favorite, TCF Financial. I know you trade that actively every day. Check it when you wake up every morning with your coffee, TCF Financial. And then, of course, good old Whirlpool. Didn't you moonlight as a little Whirlpool repairman? Oh, it was Maytag repairman. That's what you used to do. That's right.
I like the blue. I like the
Yes, you like the outfit. So there are still some names to watch. That said, maybe we'll start with you, Mr. Schwartz. What's kind of on your radar here for the rest of this week into the old weekend, sir?
We will keep watching earnings and looking for standout trades. There have been some interesting outperformances of the straddle, which is kind of exciting to see, and also it's exciting to kind of see how people revalue the remaining earnings. On the system side, technology side, we actually had an interesting conversation yesterday with somebody about some possible ways to automate the basket creation in our system based on portfolios that the traders have, which basically kind of means the system will just automatically send you the stuff that you probably have an interest in. So we're digging into FIX, which will be something new for us.
Always digging over there in the land of trade. But Mr. Rocklofter, same question for you. What's lighting it up for you aside from waiting for VXX to reset?
Besides the reset, I hate to say that FOMC.
Don't do it.
Again.
Tucson's not here. Viceroy's not here. We don't need to get into that stuff.
Ruining the
What
market.
Fed? What are you talking about?
I doubt if rates will do anything, blah, 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 but the market will be in a state of suspended belief until at least then. And again, looking at just earnings, and then I'm on a plane tomorrow, I guess. I'll just be looking at the back of the seat for a couple hours on the flight.
All right, Mr. Greasy Meatball, take us home, sir. What are you watching for the rest of the week?
Why are we worried about FOMC when they can raise the rates a quarter of a point and the 10-year can drop 70 basis points? Who gives a crud? I mean, are we going to end up with what? I mean, they legitimately can't raise rates at this point. People still get worried about it, but would they like to try and raise short-term interest rates? I'm sure. But what are they going to do? They're going to have an 80 basis point spread between the 10-year note and the Fed funds overnight rate? Is that the plan? I mean, it's just, you can't do it. And so I think that you've got earnings that people are watching, and you've got a market that's going to grind higher. Up, up, up.
Suspended belief. That's my new phrase. Suspended
that was
belief.
great.
He was awesome.
We're getting played off here, so it is time to bid adieu to this fun episode of The Option. I don't get to do them out of the studio that often, so it's always kind of fun to get out here and see actual people. which is always nice. Before we go, Mr. Schwartz, to start with you. You kind of gave a plug already for what you're cooking up in Trade Alert land. I know you guys are working on 13 apps and other kind of cool stuff. Tell the folks here what else you guys are cooking up that may interest them.
We're working on a nice little special project with Option Pit, so stay tuned for that. And just come to tradealert.com and whatstrading.com and play with what we offer and set yourself up for a trial.
I forgot to play the fact that love What's Trading. I'm sure you probably did it already before. That's a great site as well to go check out a lot of the good retail-oriented flow that you guys, maybe you don't want to see the crazy block, but you can see some other cool, interesting stuff going up on What's Trading. Go for it, sir.
We have a Saturday class, July 30th, on commodity option trading, taught by not me or Mark, but a commodity option trader that Mark knows. So
same training. He's another Group 1 guy, so we know what how he's gonna teach it. And then obviously we've got another day and a dinner with this crew, and I guess I'm buying you a steak, sir. So
one of life's few joys.
We got a great night. All right, everybody. And with that,
I'll let you wrap it up. Go ahead.
We'll see you next week on The Option Block.
It's like you've done this before.
The preceding program was a production of the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions@theoptionsinsider.com.